Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'm uploading this a little bit late, but today I'm going to be giving you all my Conference League Round of 16 predictions. In the playoff round prior to that, I was pleasantly surprised that some of my picks did not age well, especially with Dinamo Zagreb. I got a total of 4 out of 8 placements correct though. Not great, but this tournament is much tougher to call than the likes of the Champions League in my opinion. It's not going to get any easier though. These round of 16 matches are looking very brutal to call, but I love this tournament, man. It's so underrated and I feel like it still does not get the credit it deserves. Let me know your predictions as always in the comments below and make sure to drop an early like. Let's try to hit 1,000 likes on this video. Let's begin though. We're seeing all those first place teams from the group stage return to the tournament. The first case being Lille coming up against SK Srd. SK Srd were in that playoff round and they just knocked out Conference League regulars Slovan Bratislava. They will be motivated and determined to make it to the quarterfinals in this competition, as in recent history they have been really unlucky in European football, always falling short. Now they will give it their all while they have the momentum, but it's not going to be easy against the French side who are currently 5th in their domestic league. All eyes on the Canadian Jonathan David. He's their top goal scorer by quite the margin. 17 goals this season and counting. Only 1 goal in the Conference League so far, but he also only played in 4 matches, not starting in many of them either. I think now they'll definitely want to utilize him more as they're in a much deeper position in the tournament. Not to mention they did not play in that previous playoff round, so it's hard to count all of the stats in this tournament in particular. SK Srd, like I mentioned, knocked out Conference League regular Slovan Bratislava in the previous round, and they heavily frustrated them. It started off with that 4-1 victory in the first leg with the Slovan send-off, along with another in the second leg. The team is facing quite a few injuries, but they have proven to be a very solid unit working wonderfully together. Everyone is evenly contributing in this side, but I still can't help but think they are the underdogs in this. The Europa League record in a difficult group wasn't great, with just 1 win and 1 draw in 6 matches. Despite having some exciting youngsters on this team, I do think Lille will be the favorites to advance to the quarterfinals. Maybe it'll be even closer, but I'm going for a 0-0 draw in the first leg and then a 3-1 victory for Lille in the second. I'm rooting for Graz, of course, but I think this will just be too difficult for them. Next up, Olympiakos versus Tel Aviv. Olympiakos in that previous round defeated Fenerbache twice with 2 1-0 victories. Their striker from Morocco, El Kaabi, scoring both goals, but full credit to that defense for also keeping 2 clean sheets in a row. They're currently 4th in their domestic league, but it is a close race with all the top clubs. You can argue that they are still in the title race. The Europa League 3rd place finish wasn't great, but it was without a doubt a difficult group. Meanwhile, Tel Aviv have been on fire. The only team that have been able to beat them recently is Maccabi Haifa, who are also in this Conference League race as well. So it would be something if we see both of these sides advance and they have to face each other in this tournament eventually. Their veteran Zahavi is doing loads for the club, being their top goal scorer. He's also had 6 direct goal contributions in the Conference League. It's a really tough one to call. The Israeli clubs have simply been impressing this season. We'll get into Maccabi Haifa later, but they've also been on a journey of their own. What I see happening is Olympiakos to still go through, but in similar fashion to how they knocked out Fenerbache. I think it's going to be a close match, definitely not an easy one to advance to the quarters. It will start off with a 1-0 victory in Greece and then a 1-1 draw in the second leg. Moving on to Molde versus Club Brugge. Molde, one of the sides to completely prove me wrong in my predictions, as they knocked out Legia Warsaw. They essentially annihilated them, scoring 6 goals over both legs, the second one finishing in a 3-0 away win. Very impressive, as going away to Poland for that fixture is never easy. Just ask Aston Villa. It's a massive bounce back in form, as their last match in European football prior to that was them getting annihilated to Bayer Leverkusen 5-1 in the Europa League. And it's a bit hard to judge this side's form, as the Norwegian league has not began yet, but they have been playing some matches in February regardless, for the Conference League obviously, but also for the Atlantic Cup. Club Brugge topped their difficult Conference League group, where Besiktas heavily disappointed and also went undefeated. They also had to play another Norwegian club in that group, Bodo Glimt. They're a steep way from top 2 in the Belgian league, but they still have been holding their own. Nusa's injury looks to be worrisome, but with Skov Olsen and Igor Thiago up top, I think they have what it takes to advance to the quarters. I think they can do it over both legs as well. 1-0 in the first, 3-1 in the second. Club Brugge have a really solid team on paper and have been proving their worth in European football as of recently. Let's not forget the Champions League group stage last season, where they nearly topped their group as well. Now for one of the biggest matchups on paper, Ajax versus Aston Villa. We all remember Ajax's dreadful start to the season, but there's no denying that they have bounced back. They still have work to do, of course, but being closer to the bottom of the table at the beginning to now 5th place just shows that they're back in business. In the playoff round, they nearly did the job against Bodo Glimt, a side that they should be beating but can never be ignored in the Conference League. It took some time to get used to that new squad and the cycling of managers, of course, but I think they're in a position where they could compete against the mighty Aston Villa. But the fact that this club is top 4 in the Premier League at the moment cannot be ignored. Ollie Watkins with 16 goals and 12 assists in the Premier League is outrageous. A few slips here and there, but there's no denying that this club are exceeding expectations this year. And with Unai Emery managing this club, you already know they are always a serious threat in cup competitions. I still think they are one of the favorites to win the whole thing. Even with all of these other amazing, underrated teams in this competition, they should be able to defeat Ajax, and I think they can partially do it in style. 2-0 in the first leg and 3-2 in the second. Don't want to sleep on Ajax. Their new signings have been coming together better, but Aston Villa should be able to do the job here. Moving on to Union St. Gilloise versus Fenerbache. Probably one of the biggest flip of coin scenarios we have here. USG now have 2 years of impressive European football displays. They just knocked out a Europa League champion in the playoffs of this competition. Not to mention they are first in the Belgian league, coming up against Fenerbahce, who are also in a massive title race with Galatasaray. It is known that these two clubs went all out in the transfer window this year, and in the winter window they just gained Bonucci. They lost 3-0 in the Turkish Cup quarterfinal, but they did not play their strongest lineup, and they have had a few slips in the Conference League along the way. They topped their group but shared points with second place Ludogorets. The likes of Dzeko and Szymanski really need to step up here, as USG also only lost one match in 2024, and it was also a cup game. Getting rid of Boniface was no problem. The club now has been relying on Amora. This really is a flip of a coin, and I do have somewhat of a soft spot for Fenerbahce as they signed so many Balkan players. I am rooting for them to go through, but something tells me USG will be the ones to do it themselves, as they've really been in hot form. Galatasaray and Besiktas have already been knocked out of European football. Unfortunately, I think Fenerbahce are next. I'm saying Union St. Gilloise win the first leg 2-1, and in the second, it's a 1-1 draw. We'll see though. Let's move on now to Cvet versus Victoria Plzeň. The Swiss side have been in very good form. The last match they lost was all the way back in December. A 4-0 defeat to Slavia Praha, but they have picked themselves back up since. They advanced over Ludogorets by just 1 goal in 2 legs, but they'll have to face another Czech side in this round. These guys are falling behind in the Czech league to Slavia Praha and Sparta Praha, but they topped their Conference League group convincingly over the likes of Dinamo Zagreb. The last match they lost was all the way back in November, also conceding 4 goals to Slovačko. So yeah, 2 really informed teams coming up against one another. It's really tough to split them apart. I'm going to guess that Victoria Plzeň will be the ones to advance though. First leg 0-0, second 2-1 over Cvet. I'm really unsure about this one though. Moving on now to Dinamo Zagreb versus PAOK. Dinamo Zagreb had a really poor start to the season with a lot of their best players leaving to now looking properly developed. They are very much back in the title race for Croatia, along with beating a great Spanish side on paper, Real Betis, in the previous playoff round. That 1-0 away win in the first leg allowed them to clinch a 1-1 draw at home and be okay to now continue in this competition. I'm so happy about it. I really thought we were going to be done there, but the journey continues. Can't get too overconfident though, as PAOK will be tricky. First place in their Conference League group, unlike Dinamo, who were really shaky at the time. They still were able to go undefeated in a group with Frankfurt, which is admirable. Like I showed earlier, they're also very much in the equation for the Greek title race. And so far this season, Dinamo has had bad luck against Greek teams. In the Champions League qualifiers, they went out in a heartbreaking way to AEK, so they might narrowly miss their opportunity once again in the Conference League as well. I really don't know what to say for this one. Obviously, I am truly hoping for Dinamo to pull through here, but something tells me PAOK's gonna do it. Maybe part of me is saying that just to jinx my Dinamo prediction once again. First leg 0-0, second 1-1, penalties in Greece, PAOK wins. Dinamo unfortunately getting knocked out, but please prove me wrong. And the final match we're looking at is Fiorentina versus Maccabi Haifa. I already went over Maccabi Haifa's recent success a bit. They defeated Ghent in the recent playoff round, but will now have to face Conference League finalists from last season. Fiorentina having an okay season, I suppose. They're currently 7th in the Serie A, and they topped their Conference League group undefeated with 3 draws. Veteran Bonaventura has been pulling the strings for now, and this side clearly has that recent European knockout exposure since, yeah, they were finalists only a year ago. I'll be brief with this one, but I do think they are the favorites to advance. 2-0 in the first leg, 1-0 in the second. Yup, winning over both legs. We'll see though. Good luck to Maccabi Haifa. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are all my predictions for the Conference League round of 16. Like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all for making it to the end. We'll see how well this ages. I'll see you all very, very soon though. Take care. Laku noć.